If I can influence one athlete to be better because of the Peterson Performance Center, I feel like I gave back because that person could affect 10 more people, and it makes you feel fulfilled. And it just feels like I can grow my capacity exponentially. And if I can help others do that, it's just a ripple effect all through the ranks.
Hi, good everybody, and welcome back to the Dr. Z and J-Dub podcast presented by Provenzano's Deli and the Charger Athletics Fund. As always, we thank you for joining us across all of our social media platforms. And as always, our podcast is available on iTunes, Spotify, and Google Play. J.W. Stewart, along with our UNH AD, Dr. Z. Dr. Z, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. How about you, J-Dub?
Doing well. The hair and makeup look great, by the way.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
You spent a lot of time.
Yeah, going El Natural. I did the finger brush over and spit on my finger and wipe my face before I walked in.
A little dab will do you, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So of course we have homecoming coming up on Saturday. St. Anselm will be in town for football. You've had a chance to see homecoming your first year here in 2019. What do you remember about that?
It was a really good time. It was the best game of that year. And I say that in comparison to the game 2 weeks ago when Southern was here, which was every bit as good, if not better. So I'm answering your next question for you. I'm expecting even more on Saturday because, our guest is here for a reason. It's going to be the groundbreaking for the PPC, the Peterson Performance Center. A lot of folks are coming back, and it's really been a dream in the making for the last 2 years and several months.
Dave Peterson is our guest today. You've had a chance to know Dave a little bit. How would you describe Dave? Dave is going to join us here in a couple of minutes, but how would you describe Dave to our viewers and listeners?
What you see is what you get with Dave. He's been incredibly successful in life, but I don't think that's probably any accident or any surprise to any of his friends because of who he was back in college. As he was a king of the weight room, good in class, in school, and worked for everything he got on the field. And I think that's who he continues to be today. He and I talk quite often, and I probably bother him more than he wants. This morning, I drove into the parking lot and sent him like 3 videos of by the way, we've already broken ground. This is symbolic on Saturday.
Yep.
It was like Bob the Builder heaven out there. I don't even know the name of some of the machines that were working the ground and the mounds of earth. And, the dynamite did its work a few weeks ago. I can say that.
And it's up to the big machines to do the rest.
Right. Yeah.
Dave Peterson, UNH grad, as you mentioned, was on the football team here. He's in our Charger Athletics Hall of Fame. He owns 5 companies. He's a donor. There's a lot of things that we can say about Dave, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. I mentioned the Charger Athletics Fund, and we say this every podcast, but it bears repeating, especially with Dave coming on and what he's done for us in terms of donations and what you can do, too, for donations to the Charger Athletics Fund. With an annual gift of $500 or more to the Charger Athletics Fund, you get access to the pregame football VIP tent, the sideline VIP tent, the postgame reception at the German Club. Of course, you'll be there on Saturday, and Dave Peterson will be flying up from Florida on Saturday.
Absolutely. And as I told you last week, it took me a week to recover from the last home game because from the Breakfast Club at 8:30 in the morning to the cigar at the Owl Shop at 11 at night and all those things in between, we give it all we got. And it's a lot of fun. And I know the alumni who've been there have been really enjoying it.
Yeah, homecoming, we expect another great crowd. As you mentioned, we had more than 4,100 for Southern 2 weeks ago. We'd think at least that, maybe more. 3 for 3 with the weather so far in the home football games. And
well, I know someone pretty important in charge of the weather. And so, we're going to keep pulling in those chips.
A lot of important people. One of those important people is our guest today, and that's Dave Peterson. Dave is joining us from the not only the home office, but I believe the global headquarters is what we're calling it in Florida. Dave Peterson, welcome to the podcast. It's great to see you.
Good to see you guys.
Dave, for those who don't know what you do and how you got to where you are, tell us where you're from and how you got to the University of New Haven and then your path from there.
I grew up in Edgewater, New Jersey, which is North Jersey, overlooking the Hudson River. I got to UNH. When I was a kid, I wasn't even thinking about going to college. I grew up in a mechanical family and, loved mechanics and things like that, but I always had the entrepreneurial spirit. And although my dad, he loved the entrepreneurial side, he said, look, he said, I want to open my own mechanic shop. He said, well, that's great. He said, after you graduate college, you could open 10 of them, with your business acumen. And so I kind of fought him a little bit. And if you knew my dad, you can't really, if he sets his mind to something. So I figured, okay, well, the other thing I can do really well is I play sports pretty well. So I went up and talked to Coach Mack and brought him my films, and he said, look, you're obviously a great athlete, and they put you in a different position in every single game. So I don't really have consistent tape on you, but I can see you're pretty athletic. So if you get yourself, in tip top shape, we're out of scholarships, but I know you're economically behind the eight ball there, but if you just work your butt off, and we'll find a spot for you. And, normally as things go, we'll get a couple of the athletes that are on full scholarship, probably not return after the first semester. So if you stick with it, you work hard in the weight room, and, jump higher, run faster, we'll get you a spot. And sure enough, he did. And economically, I bet everything on it. I had some money saved up, and sure enough, about third game of the season, we had a couple of guys that quit, and coach gave me a scholarship. So that was my lifeline to get into New Haven.
There's a lot in your story just reminded me of what you say, and I agree. We like so much about the University of New Haven. It's our students. They're gritty. They have stories like you have. You don't find many prima donnas or entitled students on our campus. And if we could take what the story you just shared and bottle that 1,000 times over, or many thousand times over, which we've kind of done with our students, but, then teach them to give back as you have, and find something they're passionate about. I think there's a real magic in that. So I'm gonna go off script here. I can't help it, J-Dub. Let's start with, how much are you still squatting, Dave?
This morning we did 505.
There you go. There you go. Enough said. We're done with the interview right there.
We're done. That's it. They're really into health and physical fitness for your entire life. Why is that so important?
I always felt my place in the weight room, and it gave me a chance to think, dream big, right? So I set a goal for myself, I get to the next level. I set a goal for myself, I get to the next level. But, a lot of people like to meditate, and a lot of people, long distance runners, they get in the zone. I get in the zone, and I'm able to, these days, I'm able to listen to podcasts and all kinds of motivational stuff. And I give motivational speeches here locally, some of the kids and people that work for me, friends and family as well. It's just an amazing experience for me. You take a guy with maybe, average, a little better than average intelligence, and a whole lot of drive, and a whole lot of discipline and goal setting. And so I figured if we can give this to the kids, and maybe find a couple more Dave Petersons out there that we can give back to, change some lives around. It keeps you healthy throughout your whole life. To get back to your question, is I've been doing this since I'm a kid. I've always been blessed with pretty good strength and a decent body, but also your mind. It's as you get older, and you start to slow down a little bit, you have to figure out how to get your recovery going. So and you got to keep going. And I have a lot of people that work for me and a lot of responsibility. So I got a lot on my shoulders, and I want to be able to perform at a high level every day. I think about if we had all that stuff when we were in school, could we get the team a little extra recovery on Sunday? Remember we used to take the 12-minute run on Sunday mornings, but if we can get these kids a little bit of hydration, little IV, maybe the proper vitamins and minerals, some cryotherapy or, plunge therapy, I think it would really go a long way. And, I think the Peterson Performance Center can do that. And that's why we're on the right track. And I think that, that'll help New Haven tremendously, to just give the kids the basics that they don't get, that maybe the Power Five might have. But I think we have, we'll get a lot more. We'll get a lot more basics. And for me, it's about getting all the athletes to recover quicker, and get their mind and body in the right spot. So they're under a lot of pressure on the field and school all at the same time. It's like two full-time jobs.
Dave's let me peek behind the curtain at his Center for Regenerative Medicine, and it's cutting edge stuff. And, he's not allowed to say the names of some of the folks that he and his staff work with, but it's the best of the best. And if we can take a piece of that and bring it to University of New Haven, we're talking, this is beyond what the Power Five has. And this is truly cutting edge. And this is part of the secret sauce Dave and I have been talking about for a number of months, and now really 2 years, from our first vision of what we wanted to where we are now. It's really, really special stuff.
I mean, we're talking about the Peterson Performance Center. For those of us who've been on campus, we've seen the groundbreaking, and we've seen some of the artist renderings. But Dave, how did this all come about? Tell us the story and the impetus behind the Peterson the Peterson Performance Center, and ultimately what you want this to look like.
And then, I was fortunate enough to be part of the search process, for Dr. Z, and once I think he and I met each other and looked eye to eye, I wasn't going to let him go. So, he finally said, in my previous life, we just built different buildings. So we could build a weight room in one building. Maybe we could do a locker room in another. And, I think secretly he knew exactly how to, pull the strings behind the scenes. So I said, okay, well, one building, that's no big deal. And we can just put up one building. He's like, oh, it'll be $1 million and, it'll be 5. And then we'll get 5 buildings. We'll do next year, we'll do the next building and the next building and the next building. We'll call it the Peterson Performance Center. And, I'm not an academic guy, so to speak. I'm more of an entrepreneurial guy and figure things out. And so he said Peterson Performance Center. I'm thinking, well, I'm all about performance and trying to get to the next level. So he had me, hook, line, and sinker, and then they lit the flame. So here I go. I'm going to do what I normally do with any business I get involved in. I'm going to figure out how to make it the biggest and best building, we could ever figure out. So I said, well, he said, we need, 50% donor money. I said, okay, well, I'm doubling my pledge. That'll get us, a long ways there. And then I hosted a couple of alumni events with the guys that, from my team, and lo and behold, we got it. We were at 50%. And now we got 3 floors, and we'll put a nice facility on the 2nd floor for recovery for the kids. And I'm super excited about it. So
we've come a long way from that.
We've come a long way from a $1 million 1-floor building to 3 stories Peterson Performance Center. It's kind of blown me away.
Yeah.
You talked a lot about physical well-being. Obviously, you mentioned, you're a bodybuilder, weightlifter, have been for a long time, but you care as much, if not maybe a little bit more, about the mental well-being of our students and our student athletes. Tell us about your philosophy behind that and how that will play into the Peterson Performance Center.
In today's world, with all the pressure with athletes and, the social pressure that's going on out there. And I was privileged enough to talk to a world-renowned trainer, and he said, the top 50 athletes in the world, I'm part of a study, and they have more white brain matter than other folks do. And I said, well, what does that mean? And he said, they're able to focus and concentrate more because they have the right supplements and nutrients in their body, and they can deal with pressure better, and they can recover faster, and they can see more of the field or the ice or the court, squared away. Because look, we got college athletes here, and these guys, have to function, and ladies have to function at a very high level. We want to keep them functioning at a high level for the rest of their lives. So it's important, their psychological well-being. And, part of that is, making sure that the body's doing what it's supposed to do. You're getting enough oxygen in the body. It can make you more aware and just really get to that next level. That's what I think about. If you can recover the body, the brain gets a rest too, because if your nervous system is overactive, then your brain doesn't work properly, and then you have all kinds of issues. So part of that is the recovery. You get the right supplements in these young ladies and men. Let's get them recover quicker. And this way they can get back in the classroom and concentrate, because if you're in pain, you can't concentrate.
Dave, what's it going to be like to have a building named after you?
It's a surreal feeling. I feel like it's the beginning of a legacy. But most importantly, I want to inspire, the young men and ladies out there and show them that anything's possible. I grew up poor, somewhat dysfunctional family. I still got a lot to learn, but one thing I do is I work hard every day. And I think it's a ripple effect. And if I can influence one athlete to be better because of the Peterson Performance Center, I feel like I gave back, because that person could affect 10 more people, and it makes you feel fulfilled. And it just feels like I can grow my capacity exponentially. And if I can help others do that, it's just a ripple effect all through the ranks.
Dave's a humble guy, and it's not been easy to, have him accept the fact that he's going to have a building named for him, other than when we first threw that out at him. Peterson Performance Center just has a natural alliteration to it. How about that big word, for an English major?
You do have a doctorate.
There you go. Yeah. Once in a while, pull that out. But, it just sounds good. It rings true. And it's been something that's, Dave and I having this conversation a few weeks ago and said, whether you like it or not, Dave, it's already caught on. We could name it whatever, but it's forever going to be the PPC, the Peterson Performance Center. And the ripple effect he's talking about is with the student athletes and so on and so forth. There's also another ripple effect with alumni and others. It's his leadership and the legacy he's talking about, I would argue, goes another way. It shows his peers and colleagues that giving back is what happens at this stage of life. And so that ripple effect is ongoing in multiple directions.
And I truly believe in this in the bottom of my heart. Every time I double my gift, I double my capacity, and I was able to help more people. So I'm super excited about it, and looking forward to seeing what we can do to get to the next level. Asking Shane, do we really, is it beneficial for the school to have it the PPC? And he said, yes, it does, because it does inspire others with your legacy. And I said, well, are we ready for that yet, or should we do other things? But we had a fundraiser out west in the wintertime, and I think we were able to really inspire a lot of folks. And I'm not sure I can call it easy, but I think we were pretty persuasive and really had people truly believe in what this cause is all about. And being a New Haven graduate and knowing that, we're grit and we're second chancers.
And I really believe this, that groundbreaking Saturday is a spear in the ground that we won the pandemic. And, our producers of this show, Rob Thompson, John Mays, Rob Thompson, joined me out there on the road very safely. We drove all over the place. We met with donors who were willing to meet with us safely. And, I think while other folks at other institutions sat in the rooms and in their caves, we got busy. And this wouldn't have happened without someone like Dave being our symbol and always being willing to meet us wherever we could be and encourage others. And there's a huge story behind that when I'm an old man and I'm asked to go speak at, fundraising institutes, I'll tell this story because it is a remarkable story that this occurred during the pandemic.
Maybe more so than any other sport, Dave, UNH football alums share a strong bond. Why is that?
I think the competitiveness of football, I think it's one of the toughest sports mentally and physically. And when you go through something like that, you build a bond with your friends. And it's hard to describe, when you go through adversity and you have wins and you have losses and you have ups and downs, and you're just fighting, and the guy next to you is fighting just as hard.
And I've told Dave this, I've been a part of 8 different universities, a couple of them twice, that makes 10 since 1984. And I have never seen a place where the athletes are more connected to the university. But these football guys, it's off the charts. The unity, the family they've created, and it's over decades. And Dave and his group are really at the peak of that. Others are chasing them, trying to be like them. It's like a giant fraternity. And
I've had professional coaches like Coach Palmer say the same thing that Z just said. He said, I've been at, I don't know, I think 43 years of coach, and I've never seen a group of guys do this. And this school is amazing. Coach Mack played coached the Ivies for 17 years, which is the top of the top academically. And he said, of all the places, this is the place that I see the people that are closest together. It's amazing to see a group of successful guys with their families and their businesses, and they all still respect and love each other.
So Dave, we'll give you the last word here for those men and women who are listening or watching the podcast, or maybe sitting on the fence about whether or not they should donate to the Charger Athletics Fund. What's your message to them?
I know a lot of people, don't have the means, or maybe you're just married, or you just had some kids or whatever. But if you give a little bit, we're not asking you to give what you can't. If you can give a little bit, because you never know, you give a little bit, you might get a little bit. You give a little bit more, you might get a lot more. So just trust in the process is all I can tell you, because I did 12 years ago. And this week we get a building.
Dave Peterson, thanks for joining us here on the Dr. Z and J-Dub podcast. Safe travels up from Florida, and we'll see you on Saturday for homecoming.
Looking forward to seeing you guys. Thanks for everything.
Before we go much further, let's get caught up on our weekly segment here, our male and female athletes of the week. Male athlete of the week, Kion Fitzpatrick, linebacker for our football team, 1.5 sacks in the win versus Pace, first road game of the year. And the Chargers got it done, 28-14 in that game. And on the women's side, volleyball outside hitter Jessica Akiona from Hawaii, our female athlete of the week. Z, as we wrap up the podcast here, your thoughts on David? He's a lot of things. Just saying donor is not good enough.
No. It's funny as you're talking about Kion there, and I think he also had 13 tackles in that game.
He did.
I'm thinking of Dave, and that was once him way back when. And so you take an individual like that and project out a couple of decades, and you end up with someone who still squat 505 and get a building going on this campus. And, without going much detail on this, because it's very close to the vest within our department, Dave's also the individual who brought the whole no Cheppy concept to us. And that's for a whole nother discussion another time. And that's something that's very special between the two of us and our friends and families and staff and the student athletes here. And, that's part of that bond I'm talking about at University of New Haven that I have not found at other places. That's what keeps me here. I know that's what keeps him coming back. And this is a call for others to join us in this cause, because this is really just the beginning, which is what Nick Cheppy is all about.
That'll wrap up another episode of the Dr. Z and J-Dub podcast presented by Provenzano's Deli and the Charger Athletics Fund. For more information, go to chargerathleticsfund.com. For our producer, Rob Thompson, for our executive producer, John Mays, Dr. Z, I'm J-Dub. Again, we thank Dave for being here, and we'll see you on Saturday for homecoming. Thanks for tuning into the Dr. Z and J-Dub podcast, everybody. We'll see you next time.
We always got to get this chair adjusted, which makes me look like I'm 4'5".
Not that far off.
Right.